Hello, welcome to the next part. I think it's part 4 of the electric scooter conversion. This segment is going to tackle cabling and changing the cables, which is potentially the most frustrating part of this whole build. I've developed some tricks that should help you get through this process. What you do not want to do, do not do this, just yank the cables out. You're going to need the original cables to help guide you in positioning the new cables. If you just yank the cables out, there are some cables you cannot install unless you take the bike apart, and we do not want that. You're going to have to change the rear brake cable, the throttle cable, the clutch cable, because the clutch cable is going to become the emergency safety switch cable, where when you pull in the clutch lever, it's going to shut off all electrical power if there's an emergency. And then you're going to remove and discard the gear change cables because they're not needed anymore. And you're going to, you don't need the choke cable anymore because you don't have to choke an electric bike. So let me start by showing you how we're going to prepare the throttle cable and the choke or the emergency stop switch cable. So what you're going to do, you access the throttle linkage and the clutch cable through the headlight. So you'll remove 2 Phillips head screws that are under here. Then you just pull out on the bottom and up. And this pin is what retains the headlight housing in. Then you gently just place it down. Not to pull it or you'll break the cable, you'll break the wires. Now in here you will see 2 cams. 1 cam for the throttle, 1 cam for the gear change. On Vespas, you change the gears by moving the left handle up and down, and it has 2 cables. But we've removed those cables, and this is one trick the manufacturer of the kit recommends. There's a short cam and a long cam. I've already switched them. You remove this 10mm bolt, then you take the long arm cam off, same on the throttle cam, and you swap them because the longer cam helps better with the throttle of the new electric rheostat throttle cable. So when you swap them, you put on the short cam lever here, but you also take a large washer and put it behind it. And I'll tell you why. You put it in, you crank it down, make it nice and tight. That way, the gear change handle doesn't move, because you're not going to have to change gears on the electric scooter. It's all automatic. So you don't want this flopping around. So when you put in the big washer, it freezes this in place. Then you put on the gear change or the throttle cable, but you need the newer throttle cable, so you replace it. And if you can look down there, they're threaded through down on the bottom. So we're going to go. So you have to change those cables. Now this is where things get tricky, because if you pull out the throttle cable, you'll never be able to thread it back in. So what I do is I take off the throttle cable, then I take the inner cable and leave it as a guide. I thread the new and I take the new cable housing, remove the cable from it. It'll look like this. Then I thread it on to the existing cable, put some shrink wrap on it to tie the two housings together. Then I gently pull the cable through, and it'll come out here. It'll come out through the bike. If you didn't lock them together, you would never be able to thread it through this without taking the bike apart. Then you do the same thing with the new brake clutch cable, which will become your safety switch. That's a good top tip. Just use a piece of shrink wrap, put it on. You put it on like this. You shrink wrap them together. Oops. So you don't do that. You just thread them together. And this is the cable that I shrink wrapped it to. And it was able to pull it through. And it just uses it as a guide. You just put on some shrink wrap and you melt the shrink wrap with either a cigarette lighter or a heat gun. A lot of people don't have a heat gun, but you can use a cigarette lighter and it'll lock it together to get it through. These are all the cables you'll have to change and remove. It's a pretty big bunch. So, the reason why there was a delay between sections 3 and 4 is Retrospective Scooters sent me a updated throttle safety switch kit. The original one was a 2-piece. You used this for the safety switch, and that was your rheostat for your new throttle. The new kit comes in a box and is 1 piece. It's like this. So once you thread the cable through, you put the throttle cable here. So when you work the throttle, it works the throttle of the electric bike, which is a rheostat. This is the new safety cable. It's your old clutch cable. So when you pull the clutch in, it shuts the bike off. Did you hear that click? That shut the bike off. Then when you reset it, it resets it. So it's all in one box now. It's a lot neater. It'll have a cover. So when we wire it up, this box will just be secured, and that's how you ride it. The last cable you're going to have to do is the brake cable. It comes out through here. So you have to do the same thing. You remove the cable from you would have removed the cable from the original motor because it's attached to the actual gasoline motor, and now the new one's attached to the electric motor. So you leave the inner cable, remove the outer cable, then with the original cable in, you thread in the new housing and push it all the way up. That'll thread it perfectly. Then you just remove the old inner and thread in the new inner, which is this one. And that'll be your brake cable. And we're going to set that up as we're going to have to adjust it and cut it, and that'll be your rear brake. Also, when you put on the battery box, there's a place for you to affix the reservoir for your new hydraulic brakes. The original brakes were just cable actuated. These are new fully hydraulic brakes. You just take the reservoir and you mount it to this mounting strap of the battery box. And that should be all the cabling. Take your time. Please do not yank out the cables. You'll never get them in the right spot if you don't use the original cables as guides. So look forward to the next video, probably in a week or so, and that should be all the electricals, and then the bike should be done then. Like, subscribe, let me know what you think, and look out for the next video. Next video should be wiring, and then riding should be very soon after that. So we're almost done. Talk to you soon. Thank you.